and for those of you new to me, I am Karen Lustrup, and I am an astrologer, and I post monthly forecasts, so if you haven't been listening to yours, please feel free to go to my channel at Pleiades Stars and listen to your monthly forecasts. But here in this sequence, it's going to be all about palmistry. Now, I've been dabbling in palmistry ever since the mid-70s when I started out with astrology as well. And I've come to develop deep respect for it because the two of them really work well together. See, all the fingers and all the mounts, they all relate to an astrological planet. And when we see and understand how these merge and melt, this helps us as a wonderful tool that the universe has been giving us that we can work with. After all, it being the God's map, it shows you where you're coming from, where you're at, where you're heading. The lines will change when you change your mind or you change your life. It all shows up. So I would like to share this with you, and I'm going to do it in a way of putting up several posts where we go into all the main lines. Then with some categories, we'll go in and do small videos with all the different signs that you can find on your lines, because all of them have different meanings. All of them have different interpretations for what and how it affects your life. So be sure to subscribe just so you can get in here every week. We're going to have a new chapter which will bring new insights to you. I'm going to start you off with a couple of videos here right now just so you can get a feel for it. But then every Sunday it will be scheduled to be released directly to your inbox so that you can follow with us and what we are doing here. So have a good one, everyone, and let's just go to the first video here. So we're starting out with the hand proper with all the planets which rule the various fingers. As you see here, they rule the various mounts and so forth. So we're going to start off here with the thumb area, which you see is ruled by Venus. Now, the larger this area is, the more Venusian energy you hold. It's the fluids that kind of pile up in here, which we'll talk more about when we're going to talk about the mounts. But Venus rules love. It's the romantic, physical love. It's the love we have for our family members, our children, our parents, our siblings. It's love that we hold for our partners. It's also love and security as far as also looking to should I say, financial security that we have in our life and how important that is to us. So Venus in this area, if it's really prominent, well, then there's a lot of love to go around. It also rules the thumb, and we're going to talk a little bit more about the thumb, its placement, its flexibility, and what that does too. Moving right along to the moon reflects our emotions. Just like the sun radiates, the moon reflects. So it's our emotional reflection. It's also that psychic area of our chart where we are intuitive. The larger our moon here, the larger, or should I say, more energy do we hold on the psychic capacity. Now, the moon also rules home and family life differently than Venus, though. This is more the nurturing energy. We find people with very prominent moons here to have a lot of healing energy. Now, if there's a big moon and a big Venus here, you will notice that if you ever handshook with a priest or a pastor, a very compassionate person, they have like these big pillows right here, and that is their love and nurturing energy and their spiritual energy as well. Moving right along here to Mars, we see here that we have Mars in two areas, and that's the upper and lower Mars. Mars is drive, it's ambition, it's our goal, it's the energy that we hold to get things up and going and done. Mars also rules men in a female's chart, and just as Venus rules women in a male's chart. But it is that energy, that masculine side of us. And the larger the Mars is, the more fluid we hold here, the more passionate we are. Now, Mars could also be anger problems too, if Mars is not very well directed. But we have them here in two places, upper Mars here attached to the moon, and Venus here, no, Mars here in the upper part of Venus will oftentimes just show like a little sack here. Moving on to Jupiter. Jupiter is abundance, it's joy, it's all of those things that Jupiter gives, which is generosity, it's optimism, It's the way we think about life and spirituality. It's just, it's fair, rules justice too. And this is why we might very many times see how politicians will point with their finger, being pointific. The funny thing about that, though, politicians these days, if you have noticed, they don't really point their finger anymore. They kind of bend it over like a half finger. They're a half index finger. So that's something they've pulled back on here just lately, and I think that's a little curiosity when we see that on TV. But yeah, Jupiter here, it's abundant. It is our faith in life that we can move towards new horizons. It's what keeps pushing us going. It's that inner positive chatter that we have in our mind that we can overcome problems and we can get there, right? Saturn is a planet of limitation. It is our foundation, it's our grounding. Think about Saturn having rings. This is why I say limitation. But it's also our inner guidance as far as what to do and not to do. It's from childhood, it's our parents, and then it's our teachers, then it's the law and the government. But it holds us to a path, and no wonder that we have the fate line, which we're going to talk about in another video, runs right up here and runs through Saturn. It keeps us on the straight and narrow path. It's judgment, a different type of judgment than perhaps what we see coming from Jupiter. This is a stricter judgment. In the ancient days, before we had the outer planets, Saturn was the outer planet, and that was judgment. We expanded from the sun through Mercury, Venus, Mars, Jupiter, and then here was Saturn. We couldn't get further than that, so that was our limitation on the inside of our consciousness, what we could reach. Now we have expanded our consciousness to the transpersonal planets outside of these rings, and we're growing more and more spiritual as we ascend using these planets. Talk more about them later. But yeah, so that's Saturn. It's career, it's our fate, it is the foundation, it's security, it's cautiousness. And it's important. Saturn is a good planet to work with. It also rules karma, what we accumulate in this lifetime, or also karmic accumulation from previous lifetimes. And we can see that upon our fate line there too when we encounter certain karmic either circumstances or timings. Moving on to the ring finger, it is ruled by the sun. Here's the icon for the sun. The sun is who we are in essence. It's the I am of who we are. The sun radiates, it shines. This is where our personalities come out, and this is what we show to the world. And no wonder that we keep rings on this finger and call it the ring finger, because it really ties us to who we are. The sun is creative. It's the life force. And so all creativity rules under the sun, under this finger. This is where you'll find stars and branches and whatever we will find, we'll see later. But this is the creative area for artists, whether musicians or videographers or filmatographers, anything of creative expression, writers and so forth. Well, they will have a big sun lump here so that they can really show that they're coming out with their creative energy. Mercury is the little finger. It is communication. It's all that linear communication. It's what we communicate, how we communicate. We'll find people in prominent communication fields like within public relations, TV, newspapers, radios. They will have a very prominent big Mercury, also for teachers, professors, and so forth. They bring out news to the world, so they will have a big here Mercury. And since the little finger here is ruled by it, now these planets rule all these fingers, and you'll see the spacing between the fingers. We'll be talking about that too and what that means. But yeah, Mercury is like an antenna here. It takes in energy and it gives out energy. So it's curious to see how these things work also in your chart, because it will reflect in your astrological chart. Now let's go to the transpersonal planets. So we start off here with Neptune. Neptune is clairvoyance. It's visions, it's dreams, it's all things ideal. It's the higher octave of Venus, where Venus rules love, earthly love, passionate love, love of the flesh, love of things, love of money. This has more of a spiritual attunement to it. Neptune will sensitize all those Venetian things. It brings love up to a higher level where we see the other rather than our own needs. Venus can be very egotistical. If it wants to, it can look for the love it wants for self. It looks for the needs it wants to fill. Neptune, though, won't look out for self. It'll look out for the other. How is he doing? How is she doing? It gives. It doesn't need attention to fulfill itself because it is fulfilled. It is connected to the universe. It's cosmic. And this is if you have a big prominent Neptune, and especially a big prominent Neptune Venus in your chart, you're probably one of those cosmic lovers looking for your soulmate, twin flame, knowing that there's something above and beyond that's much, much larger than who you are, right? And especially if you also then come to have a very long love line and you have a prominent Neptune and also Venus, well, you are one of those that we just call, like the Pleiadians, the cosmic lovers. So Neptune is very artistic, both with musical. It creates, it can create music from the spheres, art from the spheres. It's definitely a healer that has a very strong Neptune, especially with a prominent Neptune and a prominent moon. Definitely a connection there. And these mounts that you will see here for these three outer planets, they're tiny, small. Normally we didn't have them in our palms. You can look at the old. Be sure to subscribe right now so you can get in your weekly little palmistry class here, so you can follow us on Palmistry 123 here. And I am Karen Lustrup, and I am an astrologer, and I will see you.